Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Right Saloon. Tonight's legend to walk into the saloon is Board Game Bear. Board Game Bear, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is our take 3 on this after all of our audio, lighting, majority audio issues on my end. Me and Board Game Bear have been talking now for about 40 minutes, but we're going to have to jump right back into this. Board
It's all
Game Bear
good.
is the owner and operator of Rebel Joe Coffee, which is becoming the coffee of Beartaria. I've got my order coming in the mail, and I'm pretty excited about it. Tell the story again of how you got to where you are and what the journey was like to
All
get
right.
there.
Okay, yeah. So, um, basically, how I got to Rebel Joe started with what should have been, I guess, a negative experience. With when COVID hit, I'm a videographer by trade, and that's what I do for a living. And when COVID hit, wedding season got completely canceled, and that's the bread and butter of what my company shoots. We shoot really fancy, expensive wedding films for very rich people. And so I got laid off in April, and that was right when my 8-month-old son was born. Was right in the middle of our quarantine in our living room, and at that time, we just decided, I used the opportunity to decide, okay, where do I want to go next? I always knew I wasn't going to work for this company for the rest of my life. It was kind of a step along the way. I always knew I wanted to do my own thing and start my own business. What that was going to be has definitely evolved over the years. At one point, I wanted to be a rock star touring musician. Then I wanted to be, and I tried that for a few years, several years, and then I wanted to be a famous screenwriter, filmmaker. Did that for a few years, got some scripts into some studios' hands. It was a pretty fun little ride, but very grateful to have not gotten to do that because then I would be down in Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah, and probably would be wearing a dress, lipstick. My name would be Maxine, and I would be sterile. So I'm glad that didn't happen. Initially, what I wanted to do before COVID hit, like my dream was, I wanted to open a board game cafe, which are pretty popular in this in the bigger cities. They're popping up all over the world, really big in Europe as well. Essentially, it's a cafe that has a huge, massive library of hundreds of board games, and then of course, I'd have awesome coffee, maybe some awesome local beers on tap, some good food, and just provide a space for people to connect face to face, socialize without their phones. I actually thought about having like an unplugged Mondays where like people could put their phones in a jar and get like a discount off their stuff. So really wanted to promote that. Well, then COVID hits, and the whole idea of a brick and mortar type of business just went out the window. I mean, even in North Idaho, where we're pretty restriction free for the most part, I still wouldn't do it. Just would have been a huge risk, and I would have had to gone into a ton of debt to do it. So actually, in the end, it was a blessing because I was really bummed out one day, and my wife and I were sitting on our patio, and I was just brainstorming what I can do. And she actually came with the idea of like, well, maybe we should do, maybe we could do like a food truck, like a trailer, like do like a mobile coffee stand kind of a thing. I was like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. And so I started running with that, and I actually do have a trailer being built right now. It's getting built. I think we're about halfway there. Should be done in spring. And so I took that whole idea, and I was like, okay, I took a coffee barista, not a barista class. I took actually a class that a guy offered online for running a coffee truck specifically. So I took this 12-week course, got all into that. But then I realized, you know what? I don't want to wait till spring to get a business rolling. Like, I got ants in my pants. I'm not working right now. I'm going to end up having to go. I'll be going back to my job in fall. So I need to start working on something fast. So that's when I realized, okay, well, I'm going to start the retail side of the business, because my thought was I was always going to be roasting the coffee for the trailer to make espressos with. I knew that was going to be part of the business already, but I thought that was going to be more of the side, like the secondary part of the business. Well, that kind of has now flipped completely 180 now, where I'm now focusing only mostly on the retail side, roasting and selling coffee. And then the trailer will be more of a supplement to that, be some kind of fun and cool, like have set up at events, set up at Ursa Rio for the bears when they're there. Because the trailer I have is completely self-sustained. It's got its own water system pump. I got a huge, massive generator for it. So I could just pull up and just rock and roll.
That's awesome.
Um, so yeah, so once I decided to do that, then I was like, okay, so I obviously got all my branding done. I had one of my good buddies did a killer job doing the logo for me. That's the only thing in the business I didn't do myself, so I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. He did a really good job.
And what I think is funny
And
is you actually went to college for graphic design, correct?
I did. I went to college with him too. He was
Oh,
my
okay.
one of my classmates.
That
Yeah.
actually makes more sense as to why he's the one who landed with the logo.
Yeah, he offered to do it for free. Now this is a guy that will charge $5,000 to $10,000 to companies to do their branding, and he offered to do it for free. Like
That's awesome.
he didn't ask for a dime. Needless to say, he doesn't have to pay for coffee ever again in his life, but he's part of our coffee subscription right now. He's just a really cool dude, and he really wanted to help. And I think for him too, it was really fun because he's had to deal with like several, I think maybe more boring brands and stuff down the line. Not that he's done boring work; he does amazing work. But I think it was fun for him just to get to do something really fun and edgy and do it for a friend and not have to worry about having to answer to some corporate overlords or whatever, with it. So, and I totally gave him autonomy. I'm like, I trust you, man. Because while he was doing that, I was doing all the other stuff. I was ordering all the stuff I had to order, like just building the business, all the logistics stuff, which normally I would totally be all about doing the creative stuff. I'm like, usually I would get hung up on that and wanted to spend hours and hours figuring out a logo, but then I wouldn't be doing, things like picking out bean origins and ordering equipment, things that, they're not the less fun stuff for most people. So yeah. So then once I got the brand up, I was just like, man, I'm just going to rock and roll this thing. So I got the website built, was set up to do local only. Like the whole business was just going to be in Coeur d'Alene. I was just going to service here. I didn't have until my trailer showed up. I literally set up a tent in a parking lot. Like I got one of those little like portable canopies, and I got my flags like this one all out. And we're in the winter time, my wife and I, with like decanters of hot coffee, giving people samples. We did that for a few weeks. But then a couple weeks after I launched, is December 1st when we launched, and then the Bertaria app came online, and so I was like, "Oh, cool! This is awesome," And so I sent, one of my first batches of coffee. I think of my second round of coffee that I roasted and packaged. I sent a bag up to Big Bear, and had him up there. And of course, people who heard my letter, I was just like, "Oh, obviously thanked him for everything because he's an amazing dude and he's doing awesome things building this community, which I love and I've been a part of since almost pretty much the beginning, since he was on the Chowder show." And so so I did ask him to plug it in there, and I said, sorry for the shameless plug. And of course he's super gracious and super super stoked to do it. And then then I got hammered, man. Like bears after bears. I didn't even know he had talked about it because I was working and I wasn't listening to the stream live. I didn't know that he had said anything about the coffee until I got emails from bears emailing me through the website contact me page. I was like, oh man, what the heck's going on? So I went and looked. I'm like, oh man. And so they're all like, when are you going to ship? Are you going to ship it? Are you going to ship it? I'm in Texas and I'm in California and all these people. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. I wasn't even considering doing shipping. That was just completely not even in my realm of possibilities. I didn't want to deal with the logistics of that. And so I got more inquiries about my coffee from bears than I had anyone locally here, even my friends. So I'm just like, okay, man, I got to do something about it. So I, did all the homework. I figured it out and got that all dialed in. And I think it took me about a week, maybe a week and a half. And then once I got that launched, once I did that, then I wrote another letter to BB just to let him know, because I'm like, I don't know how else to let people know. And then I think that was about when the app launched, was after I set that up. And then once the app launched, it just exploded, and it's been crazy. Like, I mean, I would say probably 95% of the business I'm doing is literally from bears. Like they've literally just come out of the woodwork, and it's been awesome. It's been a huge blessing, and I've been busy. I'm getting my butt kicked, but it's like the coolest thing ever, because it's like getting to finally take something that I've trying to do something and actually have it work. Like, okay, this is working. We're doing this. We're getting stuff out. I did have a hang up though, which I will apologize to the bears. Right after Christmas, I ran out of bags, coffee bags. I had some ordered before I ran out, but they had a delayed shipment. They were like a week late. And they sent me an email saying, sorry, your shipment's been rescheduled. And I'm like, so I was dead in the water for like a week. And orders just kept coming in. And I'm like, man, I can't let the bears down right now, man. They're just, I'm just starting out. I got to do something. So I did let them know on the Bear app, just full transparency, like, hey, I ran into a snag here, but bottleneck's been mitigated. I learned my lesson. I already ordered more bags today. Like I'm just never going to run out of anything ever again.
You only got to learn the lesson once.
Yep. So yeah, so the last 3 days, like I'm a little scattered right now because the last 3 days was me roasting, packaging, and shipping 80 packages, 150 pounds of coffee, 150 bags with some cups too, and it's just been nuts. And doing it all myself is crazy because like um, the gal that I order beans from, they're a big they're basically just the middleman for the farms out in Seattle, and she's complimented me. She's like, "Oh, how long have you guys been around?" I'm like, 1 month. She's like, "Oh, really? I went to your website and I checked your social media, and you just look like you're really." I'm like, really, really well established, like you've been around for a while. I'm like, it's literally just me. I built, I built the website. I do all the social media. I create all the content, all the video content, all the ordering, all the packaging, all the way down to uh Wayward Bears K cups he's getting. I literally fill each one individually and then put the label on. And you're gonna love the labels too. I have a little surprise labels for the bears who got the K cups that I didn't really make much of a big deal about. I think I might have posted something in the Beartari app like right at the very beginning, but I think that's completely forgotten. So they're pretty funny labels. I hope you guys enjoy those. I'm not
Now,
going to spoil it though because you're
now
going to
I
get
got
them in like
something to
two
look
days.
forward to. Well, I think being too
That's been fun.
successful is a way better problem to have than not being successful enough. So I'm happy to hear that you're bum rushed. I'm happy to hear that things are going good for you.
It's been awesome.
One thing we talked about earlier, what's great about this community, I think there's as long as you're honest with the Bertaria community, they're going to show you love right back. They understand people get overwhelmed, and also I think what's great is we're all getting to practice in group preference, and
Huge.
we now have a bear who makes coffee. You're my coffee guy from here on out. You know,
Dude, I feel so blessed, man. I feel so blessed to be part of this community, and so much so that like I probably spent more money than I should have over the holidays buying bear wares from everyone else. Like as soon as they were showing me all this love, I'm like, dude, I'm showing it right back, man. I was just like, got some stuff from Woodshop Bear, man. Maggie, who does the awesome like the soaps and things like that, got soaps and bath bombs for my wife. Ordered a sweet pen from Woodshop Bear. I got like June Bear does awesome knitting stuff, so I did some barter with her. To got some little booties and knee pads for my little guy.
oh, that's awesome.
I got some candles on the way. I think from Frontlines Jack Bear. I mean, yeah. And then I got some awesome extracts from. Shout out to Grounded Extracts. Really good stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just been, and I'm not going to stop doing that. Like I made a decision when the Bears, like when that blessing came to me, I felt like I would feel like a black hole sucking all the energy out of this community if I didn't put it right back. Kind of like keep the currency, right? The current, keeping that within the group and the tribe I could feel it. Like I could feel the energy. I could feel that coming in, and I just wanted to just bring it right back and cycle it back through. So I think Big Bear said it's like a Tesla coil. Like we're just going to keep creating this awesome energy within the tribe. And yeah, from now on, it's if I need something or want something that I can get from a bear, I'm getting it from a bear.
Absolutely.
That just switched to 2021 when the new year flipped. Man, I'm just like that's it from now on. I do believe that that's the only way out of Babylon, because I feel like with everyone's all freaked out about the election and all this stuff. And what do we do? This and that, and I was kind of making fun of the protesters at DC yesterday. I was talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, sure, they're making a big show and a big scene, but half those people are going to stop at Walmart and Costco for groceries on the way home and feed the beast.
Yep.
And so the only way that they control us is through our dependency on them and their system. And so I think developing this bear economy that we're doing, I heard that we have a bear Amazon in development right now, like a bear Amazon. So it'd be like an online storefront.
Yeah, I've heard Owen talk about it, and it gets me really excited. And
I'm so stoked.
He's also mentioned that he said for those content creators.
I just did a grappler thing. Sorry, yeah. I just realized I did. I just realized I'm so stoked. Sorry.
He also mentioned he said a statement in the stream a couple days ago, and he's like, and for you content creators out there too, we got something big for you. And that's all he said. My mind instantly went to like BearTube.
Yeah, I think it was he posted a logo for it. It was like Unbearables Media, which I'm really excited about because I love doing stuff. I love doing fun content, and I would love to collaborate with any local bears around, any bears I can, to do some fun stuff. So I was really stoked for that. because there's things I would love to make and put on YouTube, but I'm like it'll just get banned or something because I'm just we didn't they don't like our kind there, So
I
yeah,
had I had
so the
one
indoor
hiccup with
preference.
this show. Funny enough, I had one
Oh,
hiccup
did
with
you
this.
really?
Yeah, I had one hiccup with this show, and I was able to work it out. But I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we're 2 episodes in, and already I'm gonna get something taken down." Like, it's a show
Oh,
where I'm
that's
talking to people
insane.
about their lives, but we worked it out. It's all good on that end. But I would like to
That's
get off
good.
YouTube. I'm going to BitChute. Everything's getting dual uploaded to BitChute.
That's
One
awesome.
question I do have for you is, why coffee?
Why coffee? Well, you asked me this in one of the other takes of
Takes.
this, and I didn't really give you a good answer. Coffee. I love drinking coffee. In fact, statistically, 80% of Americans drink coffee. So why coffee? Well, I mean, other than the fact that big picture, why coffee is, I really feel like with the times that are coming ahead, whatever's coming. I'm not a negative person. I don't think we're all going to die. We're all going to survive the winter here,
Mhm.
but I do feel like we're going to need to buckle down and be a little bit more practical. And so for me, it was really about choosing to move from a less tangible, um, I guess, offering or service like, video and photo and stuff like that I do. I love doing it, but it is considered a luxury item, a luxury business. And I really felt like the move for me to make long term was to get into the commodities game. And so that's why coffee is a commodity. Most people drink it. Most people are addicted to it. When I was a bartender, I bartended for 10 years, and I bartended through the 0809 crash recession. One thing I'll tell you right now, that bar was never empty. You wouldn't have known that there was a recession because people wanted their booze. So I kind of learned a lesson then that like there are certain things that people are always going to want and come to regardless of economic situations and whatnot. And so coffee is one of those. I mean, I'd rather do coffee than booze. I feel like that's a little bit more of a healthier
Mhm.
substance to be slinging to people. So that's the big picture. Now, more personal, it's like I love coffee and I think it's awesome and I love drinking it and it's actually really fun to make. And coffee is just a really cool thing. It's like, what do people do when they get together, and meet up with old friends? Like, let's go get a cup of coffee. It's a very social thing. It's like beer, it's like booze, but it's just the alcohol free version of the same kind of, you know, thing. So yeah, the big reason is I getting into the commodities game. Now, of course, being a creative person and loving doing creative stuff, um, I was gonna have to incorporate that into my business one way or another. So that's why I kind of took a note from the Black Rifle Coffee guys because one of their biggest marketing tools is their funny videos that they do, and they do these funny edgy videos, and I'm like, that's where I'm going with it, man. That's what I'm gonna do. So that's why you get all the funny Fox videos and all the things that I'm doing with that whole kind of theme that I'm rocking. So yeah, that's kind of my treat, really, is like I'll do all the production stuff, all the really hard, labor work. And then as a treat, I get to go make a funny video and share it with people. So honestly, all the hats that I get to wear in this business is what makes it work for me. I'm one of those people that's kind of ADD. And I get bored easily. So being able to wear all these different hats, like sometimes I want to just check out and listen to a Big Bear stream while I'm roasting and bagging coffee, packaging it, all that stuff. And then sometimes I want to just do something really creative and fun and like spontaneous. And then that's when the video stuff comes in or the weird parody songs that I'll throw in there. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's why coffee, man. I mean, I think a commodity is a way to is good because I just think what, especially in this bear economy where people are going to be looking like, I could take my coffee and trade it to someone for milk, who has goats or cows or something, or
Mhm.
or for fish or some other thing. So in fact, that's what I'm doing with June Bear. I'm trading her coffee for the knitted booties and the knee pads for my son.
I think
So
that's awesome.
super cool, man.
Um, Obviously, my expertise in coffee doesn't go much beyond filtering it through hot water, which is my favorite way to deal with coffee. But I know that you can't grow coffee in the continental United States, and if I'm correct, Hawaii is the only U.S. state you can grow coffee in. So it asks the
Yep.
question of where do you source your coffee?
Yeah, so my beans, and that does suck. I looked at that too because I just recently looked at because I'm thinking supply chains, right? Because
Mhm.
Big Bear's got everyone on looking at supply chains. So yeah, so Hawaii's the only one, and I guess maybe some in Puerto Rico. That's not a necessarily state yet. So yeah, so I get my beans from, and it depends on the flavor profile you want. Every origin's got a different kind of profile. So I right now I source from Brazil, which 70% of coffee in the world is Brazilian. Um, I mostly use Brazil for blends. They work really well with blends. I don't do straight Brazil for anything. I've got Guatemalan, which makes a really good bean for darker roasts. And then I just brought in for the Bears for the Bertaria blend. I'm going to change the Bertaria blend, and I brought in my one of my favorite beans of all time, which is it was from Ethiopia. So this could be an African bean, really awesome dark chocolate notes to it. It's going to be baller. So the Bertaria blend is going to crush even harder very soon. The beans actually got delivered today at my dad's shop, so I'll be getting those tomorrow. I ordered 450 pounds of beans, by the way. Like I was ordering these small quantities, like 40 pounds at a time. It wasn't working. I save a lot of money just getting the big bag. So the big burlap, bean sacks, I got 450 pounds waiting for me. And if I can burn through that in a month, I'd be pretty stoked. But hopefully it lasts a little while.
Financially, what set you up to get into the coffee game?
I had my roaster already because I did some video work for my dad and we just traded. So he had his prototype of the roaster, one of the roasters he sells, and so I traded for that. And then uh, most of the money for the business came from money that my mom left me after she passed away. She passed away. She had ALS for 2 years, and it's the rarest and worst form of ALS. It's called bulbar ALS, and so most people are familiar with ALS, where it's kind of where the paralysis and stuff happens from the feet up. So that's why you'll have people like start to walk funny and get in wheelchairs. And then the last thing that goes is kind of like their ability to breathe and speak and all that stuff. Well, my mom's ALS was the opposite. It starts from the top down. So it definitely kills you a lot quicker. Like they say, like 6 months to a year and a half or two
Sorry to
years or
hear that.
something is the life. Yeah, it was brutal. My had to watch her, just lose everything, and it was terrible. But um, she left me some cash, uh, and one cool note though is the day after her funeral was we went and saw Big Bear perform live at Sandpoint, the Sandpoint show. So that was awesome. Lifted my spirits. My sister came with me. She's a bear as well. She's Breezy Bear. Um, so that was awesome. But yeah, so she left me this money, and I knew I had to do something um, good with it because she was an awesome mom, man. She like the reason I pursued screenwriting and music and whatnot was because she was so supportive. She was like, "Yeah, you go for it, just go for it." Yeah, I wish she would have maybe dialed it, like reeled me in a little bit, and been like, "Hey, you might want to figure out a way to support a family." But nonetheless, she was really supportive and awesome, and so I just wanted to do something that she would be proud of, So
Mhm.
it really is an homage to my mom doing this like every day when I'm working, like when I was busting my butt, like when I didn't have bags for a week and orders were piling up, like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna let my mom, I can't let my mom down, like
Mhm.
if I nuke this thing right out of the gate like this, then and I fail, then I will let her down. I mean, I'm sure she'd be proud of me no matter what, but that's what you
It's the
think
stuff
about.
that keeps you going and keeps your drive.
Keeps going, yeah, and of
Mhm.
course, and my family keeps me going. I mean, I'm not doing this for myself at all. Like I'm doing this for my most immediate goal is like get my wife home. At least part time with the kids. She's a school teacher right now. She's stuck in Maskville. It's really draconian in schools, and starting to break her a little bit. So getting her home is priority number one, and then secondarily, I would be also in the future to have a legacy to leave my children. I'd love to
Absolutely.
have it be a family business and have the kids take it over and that kind of a thing and grow into something that could support their families.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what it's all about for me.
Awesome. We discussed you grew up in the Pac Northwest, small town,
Hmm.
average outdoor lifestyle. Once you graduated high school, you wanted to rebel. You did your first round of
Yeah, I mean,
college.
I wouldn't say it was rebelling. I just was like, "Ooh, what's this liquid?" Like I mean, I drank a little bit at the like senior year of high school, but like really the party scene was like, keggers out in the woods and a bonfire, burning pallets that people jacked from the back of a grocery store. So it was redneck style. It was very redneck town where I grew up. So I did 1 year of college and joined a fraternity. Um, Gained fame by doing nasal shots of vodka.
Yep.
That my which was retarded, but my one of my best friends, he actually finished all 4 years of college, was in that fraternity, and he said even like 3 years after I was gone, they remembered the pledge that would take shots of vodka in the nose. So there's my claim to fame in the frat world, just which is pretty much sums up the frat world right there, dude. That's it.
It
But
sounds like
yeah,
me and you were very similar in college. Very, very similar. I started with the nasal shots. Did you ever do them through the eyeball?
no, oh no. There was a guy that did that, and I was like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah,
That's
I graduated up to the eyeball. That I was
Oh
that guy.
man, yeah, you got me beat with the eyeball, man. No, that sounds terrifying. Yeah, and then I dropped out of school, got started a band with my friends, spent a few years living in a band house, writing music and recording music and trying to do that whole thing while being stoned out of my mind, like most people are in that lifestyle. And then that whole band thing broke up, and after that broke up, I my buddy and I, who for work at the time were telemarketers, those awesome telemarketers calling people up trying to sell them windshields. We were the windshield guys, and and we started doing writing screenplays because we love movies and thought we were gonna be filmmakers one day, and so we started writing screenplays. And my buddy, who has a silver tongue, very silver tongue, he's a small hat and he's perfect for it. He's your typical guy. He would use our telemarketing skills to pitch our screenplays to the gatekeepers at studios, and we had, it was called the Hollywood Creative Directory. It's the Hollywood phone book, and we were just basically, we'd go through, and we knew the studios pretty well at the time, like, because we knew what their lineup of films were, so we would just look for the ones who made films like what we had written. And my buddy would just call up and just pitch them and basically pretend to be an agent, like, hey, I got this script that's hot on my desk, and just do this whole thing. And we would get our scripts into like actually getting read at like Jerry Bruckheimer's office, Universal, New Line, and we had stuff read. We even we were developing a movie with Jan de Bont, the director of Speed and Twister. So his second in command was basically, we were on the phone with him every day. We were going through script notes every day, and we were writing the script. Ultimately, that whole thing fell apart when Jan de Bont wanted to completely like rewrite our script to a point of not being recognizable to something we even wanted to deal with. And so our creative integrity kind of kept us away from doing that. So yeah, I just kind of got burnt out from that whole thing, which I'm glad I did, because Hollywood is awful. It's just literally the belly of the beast as far as Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. So glad I didn't get into that whole scene, but it was an awesome learning experience, and it was fun. I kind of wish maybe I had like put more time and energy at that, because this is most of my 20s. I spent pretty much all of my 20s was all like trying to pursue these creative endeavors that wasn't something that was actually sustainable as far as like taking care of a family or anything. So yeah, that was fun.
So you kept the screenplays off, and if I remember correctly, you go back for college round two, correct?
Yeah, so college round two, where I met the guy who made my logo. I went to graphic design school, did graphic and web design, just did the 2-year tech degree thing, which was super awesome, super hardcore program. It was like, I think it started with 60 kids and only 13 graduated because everyone just left, because it was a super brutal program, really good program though. So that was super fun. That was kind of my attempt at trying to get into a more practical creative field, like the tech arts, which is a little bit more, there's more job opportunities than say fine arts creative stuff. So did that, hated web design. Hated because at a certain point you split and you're like, are you going to do print design or are you going to do web design? I'm like, well, web design seems more future proof, so I better go this way and do all the programming stuff, and didn't really like that much at all. During this time, for work, I'm bartending, kept doing bartending and serving, and then at that time right before I went to school, I was dating my then or now ex-wife. So I've been married before.
And just so everybody at home knows, this is where we left off. So now the whole story is new to me. This is the point where we were at. We made it back.
This is the good stuff.
Full circle, friend. So full circle.
We did it, and this is the good stuff because this is like really where I really started waking up. This was back in 2011. I got married in 2010, summer 2010, and one in July, and one about 2 weeks around the 4th of July of 2011. I found out that my ex-wife was having an affair. She was cheating on me, like, and we're talking like a full-on like relationship affair, not like, oh, I got wasted one night and had an accident. I wouldn't have tolerated that either. But that's so, and things were getting weird. She was a mess. I mean, this chick was just laden with trauma. At the time, she so I have been engaged 3 times, married twice. So if it shows you how much of a hopeless romantic I am, but I was addicted to fixer uppers early in my dating life. So this girl was a fixer upper. She was beautiful, but she was totally like the hot mess situation, and just yeah. Um, so she broke my heart, totally crushed me. I ended up moving in with my buddy, who was married, and moved in his basement, like a little spare room in his basement. And I just kind of went into a downward spiral of just drinking and popping pills and just a wreck, just you know one of my buddies reminded me the other day. He's like, "Yeah, I remember when we were supposed to meet you at like a brewery for a beer, and you like didn't show up. And we were worried about you, and we came to check on you, and you were just like blacked out." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even remember that." I'm like, "Oh God, what a mess." Um, so what saved me from that situation was one of my other good buddies, the guy that I did the screenplays with. His family had moved. There were total hippies. They're like your quintessential hippies. Just really cool people, though. I think his dad might have grown pot or something at one point, but they moved up to like a 160-acre farm up in British Columbia, up in Canada. I think it was on the Lake Kokanee or something like that. It's a beautiful valley, and so beautiful land. And what his dad had a very like untimely death. Like his dad passed away. I think he had a heart attack. It was very sudden, just boom, gone. And so we took him up there, up there to be with his family, and I was up there for a few days with them. And then I kind of had this inspiration. I'm like, he was kind of the patriarch of the family, the head of the house, big time. And so I figured they were going to need some help on their farm up there because I mean they had goats that they milked, they had hogs. I mean they were building infrastructure and stuff like that. And I had a massive garden. So I'm like, this might be a good opportunity for me to get out of Dodge, take a sabbatical. And they don't have really internet or cell phone service up there, so I could totally disconnect and just take some time off and get my shit together. So I don't know if I can say that. Sorry.
Oh, you can say
You can
whatever you
bleep it in
want, man.
editing.
You can
Okay,
say
cool.
whatever you want.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I needed to get my shit together. Otherwise, I was gonna drink myself to death. And my daughter's just. So I hike it up there for a month. I mean, I'm literally like such a mess at the time. Sorry. Anyway, I was such a mess at the time that I was literally like popping my last like hydro that I had on the drive up there. I mean, I'm just gonna be completely transparent with the Bears. So but I had nothing left. I was like, I'm gonna go up there and get sober and get my stuff together. So I went up there and I had an amazing experience, man. I was like, it was totally like, in a way, it was a little bit of the world that I think Big Bear imagines, like Beartaria, where it was all farming, gardening. The men and the women had very traditional roles. Like the women that were there, because there was other families that were there. It was like totally like a hippie commune. All right, like there was even one guy that had like a polyamorous thing going on with. I mean, it was like totally like that. And yeah, so like the guys were doing all the labor. Like we were just building these structures, these crazy like I guess it was going to be like cabins for workers to stay in, and out of crude materials. We're building it kind of earthship style, and we're building these things, and we'd be busting our butt all day. And then the women would literally bang a gong for lunch and dinner, and you would just like go in and just chow down because you would just know that you're working to the point of collapse, and you knew that the food would be like ready like immediately, like you could just eat it. So we were doing that lifestyle, doing lots of hiking, I mean, just outdoor, playing lots of music. I mean, I was even doing yoga up there because one of the my buddy's mom, whose husband passed away, she had one of her friends up there that taught yoga. So we were doing yoga. I mean, it was just really cleansing. Did a detox, didn't drink, smoked a little, I guess, up there. They were growing their own tobacco up there too, which was pretty cool. Not that I really cared about smoking, but it was kind of cool just to like, oh, I'll puff on with something. You guys grew it. You're hanging it right there. So it was a really awesome experience. Like these are hippies, right? So everything's just new age, like talking about nature of consciousness and just really having really awesome conversations. And it really like woke me up. It really like kind of changed my direction. And so it was right before I was up there for a month, and it was right, like, I would say a couple days before I was coming home, and I was on some dating apps online. And before that was pre Tinder. It was like, like an actual dating
Like Match.com or
website.
eHarmony?
Yeah, I think it was like Plenty of Fish because it was free, and I was had too much pride to pay for it. So my current wife, started messaging me. She like contacted me like right before I came back, and we started talking and things like that. And as soon as I got back, we chatted more on the phone for like 2 weeks before we met in person. And honestly, it was like it couldn't have happened any more perfect as far as synchronicity. Because when I went up there, one of the big things that happened to me up there was I kind of had to go through dealing with not really having my dad around growing up. So like I had to have for me. I kind of likened it as a rites of passage, kind of like when back in the old primitive days where the father would take the son on a hunting trip, and if he made it back alive, he's a man. You know what I mean? So like I kind of had to do that for myself, and so that's what I kind of felt like it was a rites of passage. So I kind of had to undo a lot of that past garbage and get through all that stuff. And of course, this was in 2012, so like obviously all the Mayan calendar everyone's talking about 2012. It's this is the year of this is when the Great Awakening begins, and for me it was. So, yeah. So I met my wife. We hit it off big time. I moved in with her like 9 months later. That's how I got to Coeur d'Alene. I lived at Spokane at the time, and then moved in with her over here, which that's what brought me to North Idaho. Thank God I'm here. Um, and yeah, so that's what started my journey. And then from that point on, I started reading, of course, at that point, 2012, being more awake then, there wasn't a lot of outlets for it. Like I had Alex Jones, right? I had InfoWars. I had like guys like David Icke, um, you know, dudes like that. And then of course, everyone around me wasn't awake yet. Like my sister, who is currently a bear, thought I was insane for a while. My wife thought I was crazy because I was like, yeah, if and when we have children down the road, like we're not vaccinating them. And she's like, what? She was totally pro-vaccine, saying we're gonna, I got vaccinated and I'm okay, doing that whole argument. I'm like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And now, of course, everyone's on board, with what I'm about. And of course, so yeah, so that led into, of course, just waking up. I woke up more politically because I used to be like more of a leftist kind of, not like a Antifa type person, but more just like we are one, everyone, love everybody. No one's out to get you or whatever kind of a thing. And so kind of grew up on that regard. Of course, I got on the Trump train, but I did do that as well recently. But but yeah. So anyway, so yeah, so I met my wife. We got married, and then of course started listening to, found Owen through Lauder with Crowder when he first started getting his exile from Hollywood. He started doing guest shows on Lauder with Crowder, and that's when I found him. Was right then, and then I've been a huge fan ever since. The reason I'm still Board Game Bear too is it was when he was still being able to get super chats on YouTube, and so I super chatted him and asked him to verify me, Board Game Bear, and he did. So I'm like, well, he verified me. I'm just gonna stick with it. Like I could be Rebel Joe Bear, I could be something maybe coffee related, but I'm like, nah, dude, it's still my favorite hobby. I still love it, so it's totally fine. So yeah, I mean, fast forward, went through the hardship of losing my mom, which was huge. But she blessed us so much. I mean, I forgot to mention too, part of the money she left us is what got us our house. The part of the down payment, big part of the down payment of the house that we're living in currently, that we were able to buy. And if we wouldn't have been able to buy now, the housing market's insane over here right now. So like we wouldn't have been able to buy a house in Coeur d'Alene if we had to wait an extra year even.
Now, are
So
you running the business out of your house as well?
yes. So I have my shop set up in my garage right now. My dad's gonna come help me. We're gonna build it up even bigger. Apparently a lot of micro roasters are doing that. My dad informed me he's slaying it right now, selling roasters, because apparently that's like the micro roaster industry is exploding. Like people are just doing it's brew. The microbrewery scene has kind of capped out, and so now micro coffee roasters is the new big thing popping up everywhere. So I kind of caught the wave at the right time, honestly. But yeah, so I do it all from home. My dad said most micro roasters do. But we're gonna get this thing set up really, really awesome here in the next couple. We actually are doing a trade for me. I'm gonna make some funny videos for his company, and then he's gonna trade me for a bigger roaster. So I'm gonna be able to do triple the volume. in the same
Awesome.
amount of time, which is going to be awesome. And we're going to do stainless steel. I mean, the back of my garage is going to be just awesome. So yeah, I am doing it from home. I do occasionally roast at his shop. Some of the pictures I've taken is at his actual, commercial facility because I needed to use his roaster to be able to roast enough coffee because I can do 3 pound batches on my current roaster, which is the mini version of his. And then he's going to hook me up with a 10 pounder so I can do 10 pounds at a time. He's actually working on a 25. He's currently in the engineering process of a 25-pound roaster. So maybe I'll get to use that one day. I don't know.
Just to go into our standard questions, which you're actually going to kind of be one of the easier guests I've ever had on. Um, you're not single, so we don't got to worry about that. Do you have any advice to the single bears out there?
Yeah, for the dudes, I can give them the advice I wish I had gotten. Number one for women is security. Period, man. End of story. You can provide security to a woman; she will love you and just and be your rock, man. Because that's really what it comes down for. I mean, that's it. Women want security, and I wish I would have known that a little bit more when I was younger because I was chasing my pipe dreams of wanting to do these things that were not providing a stable, income and things like that. And there's a reason, and there's a very logical reason why women want security. It's because in most cases, women will be, for lack of better words, handicapped by having children and being home breastfeeding, and they need to know that you can bring home the bacon, so to speak, and provide. So if you can, I mean, there's more to it than that, but I would just say that like that that is the key to a woman's heart is if you can make her feel secure and safe.
Spiritual journey. We haven't really discussed religion that much. Um,
Yeah.
where are
Oh
you
yeah,
at?
that is a big one actually. Yeah, so when my mom was dying, slowly, I started drinking again. In my family, that's what we do. We do have alcoholism in our family, so that's definitely the danger. So I started drinking again, really pretty heavily in 2018. And is it 2018? It was either 2017, 2018. Time's flying like crazy, man. But when my mom was pretty much in the thick of just falling apart, I was having a hard time with it, watching that go down and wanting to do anything I could to help her. I couldn't help her. I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, natural stuff. We were doing everything we could. And so yeah, so I started drinking a lot, and I just kind of realized there was this church that was by my house at the time, like walking distance, a few blocks, and I walked by it a bunch of times. And one of my coworkers that I work with at the videography company, he was Christian, and he talked about church and stuff. We talked about religion and stuff from time to time, and we kind of talked about, well, maybe we should talk about maybe we should go church shopping together because he had just moved to Coeur d'Alene from Spokane, and he was going to try to find a church to go to here. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe one of these days we'll try some churches out or whatever. So kind of just hit me one day. It was the beginning of April, and I was like, either I'm going to drink myself to death. I'm either going to drink myself to death, go to like a psychiatrist, and they're just going to put me on some stupid, SSRI drugs, or I need to find a spiritual way out of this thing. And so that's when I decided to give this church a shot. Went in there, and it changed everything. I mean, it literally like my wife was so anti like organized religion at that time but she didn't even care because she saw the positive impact it was having on me being starting to go to church and getting involved and stuff. And so yeah, so on Mother's Day that year, it was like a month and a half later, I got baptized on Mother's Day, and I was thinking about my mom the whole time I was doing it. And then um, then when I told my mom I got baptized, I thought she was gonna make fun of me because we weren't really a church family or anything. She said she wanted to get baptized, because she wanted to go to heaven. Of course, she's scrawling this on a piece of paper barely. And so I arranged for my pastor to come to my sister's house. She had a swimming pool, and we're like, let's do this. Let's rock and roll. So my mom he baptized my mother.
Awesome.
She got baptized a few months before she passed away, actually. So I was able to get her baptized, and my sister Breezy Bear got baptized, and her kids. And so yeah, I kind of like opened this whole world up to them. And now my sisters, they're going to church and things like that with the kids. And so yeah, my spiritual journey has been interesting because I was from 18 years old, I was very spiritual, but in the new age kind of sense. I hated organized religion. I believed all the grabbles about Christianity and all that stuff that are told to us through our culture and media. And so I joke about it. I'm like, I explored every possible path except Christianity. I went down all the Eastern philosophies, all that kind of, all the esoteric practices, wisdom, old ancient wisdom teaching practices, mystic, all that stuff. And then when I started digging into Christianity more, really, like, and really, like, hearing it from a pastor's mouth that I related to, who's also a musician, and also reading the Bible myself and realizing, oh, wait, the stuff that I heard about this, about Christianity, isn't actually even true. Like, that was just grabbles that I was like, that people told me, and it wasn't even real. And so, yeah, I really connected with it. And I connected with the community aspect of it and the church. And yeah, man, I just like, it just felt right. I'm like, all roads lead to Christ, I guess you could say. For me, that's what it felt like for me. It was like, oh man, this all makes sense. Like, all these like other esoteric, like, kind of metaphysical aspects of spirituality that I was reading about, they all took it from Jesus. Like, all the story of Christ, it was like all the same stuff. It's like they just rehashed it into their own thing, except they didn't have, except for, instead of saying God exists, they could say the universe exists. And I just saw a lot of cop outs, like the new age stuff, they completely cut out the whole personal responsibility aspect of it. And like, it's like, oh, it's all relative, right? It's all the whole relativism thing, moral relativism. I hate that stuff. It drives me nuts now. But I was definitely in that boat for a long time. Love is love, man. What if it's with a kid? Like what? So yeah, yeah. So my spiritual journey definitely, I would definitely consider myself a Christian now. I, I have a Bible next to my bed. I dig it open, read into it. Not as much as I should lately, because I've been so busy, but like, it's something I think about a lot. And I haven't been going to church really anymore since the COVID thing hit, because once the churches closed down, I couldn't do it anymore. I blame Big Bear for that. You just talking about that, I'm like, he's kind of right, especially since the whole concept of not having fear is the most referenced theme in the New Testament. And here these churches are closing down over a complete hoax. And then I was like, I'm just some random dude. Shouldn't this pastor, who's been having a relationship with God his entire life, have the discernment to know that this is a total Satan ploy? I mean, I actually did talk to him recently. He came and bought some coffee from me, and I go, I just asked him the question. I'm like, who benefits more from having churches closed, but liquor stores, weed shops, and abortion clinics open? God or Satan?
Yeah,
It's like, who benefits from that
yeah.
situation? So,
And I totally agree with
yeah,
your point. Like, I don't understand the fear, especially of believers. Like, if this would have
dude,
happened, I
it's
feel like if this would have happened in the '90s, like, it would have never flown, because that was like the last era I can remember where like Christian leagues and everything would be coming through. Like, no, we're not going to wear a mask. No, you're not going to shut our church down. Like, I feel like there would have been more of a
yeah.
fight put up by organized religion, and it's just
Oh,
amazing to
dude, it
me to
totally
watch them.
demoralized me, man.
Yeah, it's amazing to
Yeah,
watch
I couldn't
organized
do
religion
it.
be like, yeah, okay, no problem. We'll wear masks. Oh, you want us to close? Sure, we'll close. No problem. Let us know when we can open
Oh, you
again.
want me to cover the likeness of God?
Yeah,
The thing that like connects us with. I mean, it was just all the aspects of it. It just felt so spiritually wrong to me that
I agree.
I have yet to set that foot in a church since. I know they all shut down. I mean, I did talk to my pastor and I came clean with why. And he seemed cool. He was just like, yeah, he's like, I totally agree. He's like, when it first happened, we didn't know if this was a new zombie virus or something, but he's like, but now that we know that it's like got a 99.9% survival rate, it's like, no, it's game on. And he has fully opened his church, and there's no social distancing. They allow people to wear masks if they want to. Obviously,
It,
I don't blame him
and
for
that's it. It
that
should be
whole
the
thing, but
individual
like,
choice. It shouldn't be mandated. That's
yeah,
my big thing.
no, not at all. But it's just still like, it just tripped me out, because I guess it was my own flaw in like starting to kind of idolize the church, like idolize something, false idol style, because I was like, so I held the expectations higher than I should have had for just other human beings. We're all just people, we're all fallen, we're all flawed. But for me, I was just like, but then at the same time, it's like, I'm not a noob at spirituality. I've been into this stuff my entire life. I'm just a noob at Christianity. So I
Mm.
guess all the discernment stuff, um all was already instilled, it was already in me. I guess, I don't know, just it just drove me nuts, man. Because I was kind of going against I was going against the grain of my upbringing to go to church in the first place, kind of being like, I never liked these places, I never like organized religion, I don't want to do this. And then they all shut down, and and just went along with the COVID hoax. And I'm just like, God dang it, I was right all along.
All right, so well, we got that out of the way. My last question every episode, and you kind of already answered that, so I'll kind of respin it. The last question I ask everybody is, what's the origin of the name? And you obviously said it's your favorite pastime to play board games, correct?
Oh, dude, I love board games. Yeah, I mean, if I could show you, I would show you the picture of my board game collection. It's like it's well over 100 games, and we're talking. It's just like a wall. It's
All right.
it's a beautiful sight to me.
So
But
then
yeah,
I
that's
have
what it
two
was.
questions for you. Favorite
Okay.
board game of all time? That's question one. Question two is, it was either on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. You posted a picture of what looked like a Western, like,
Yeah, that was my
shoot 'em up
birthday,
game.
dog.
That was your
Yeah,
birthday?
no, New
Yeah,
Year's
that's right.
Eve.
Your
Yeah.
birthday's New Year's Eve. Um, what was that game? Because that game looked really interesting.
Okay, yeah. So when I say I'm into board games, I'm not talking Scrabble, Monopoly, Pictionary. It's contemporary board games. So, um, just briefly, so like the board game industry was big right before video games, and video games came in, and board games kind of took a back seat. Well, now all these clever designers are taking all the knowledge and of the video game industry and making board games. So they're highly thematic. They have lots of mechanics that kind of resemble video games in a way. So they're super involved and super like really awesome. And some are very complex and deep. But yeah, so so the games I'm into are very like really thematic. So the one you saw on my birthday that I played, that probably that's in my top 3 favorite games right now. That's called Western Legends, and it is a open world sandbox Western game. So people familiar with like the Red Dead Redemption
Mhm.
franchise, video game franchise, it's like that in a box. So each person gets to play this Western Legend of Times. They're all real people like Billy the Kid or whatever, White Earp. They have like a special ability, and you're going around the map, and you get to do a plethora of different activities to earn the points to win the game. I mean, you could literally be the guy that goes and mines gold, sells the gold to the bank, and then takes the money to the cabaret to the dancing ladies and spends it there to get your points. Or you can be you can go be on the wanted track if you want to be a bad guy, or you can be on the marshal track to be a good guy. Then the good guy can be trying to arrest the bad guys. You can rob trains. I mean, it's just as awesome. It's just super cool.
It,
But that's
it,
the
it
kind of
kind
stuff
of
that they're doing
sound
now.
it kind of sounds like a modern day version upgrade to Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm not saying that like in a mocking way. I'm saying that's kind of the vibe I get, where it's that involved.
Yeah, it is, but it isn't quite because I've done D&D and I've ran a campaign. Because it's not like you need to have a dungeon master running anything. It's just like,
Mhm.
you're like on your turn, you can take 3 actions. So you're just like, okay, I'm going to move over here. I'm going to do this, and then that's it, or play poker or whatever. And then the next person takes their turn, kind of like that. And so there's still like kind of a more, I guess, rigid framework for the rules, so to speak. Whereas like the dungeon master can kind of make stuff up on the fly. The game that you'd be thinking that'd be like Dungeons and Dragons is a game called Gloomhaven, which I am playing with friends. It's like we've been playing it for over a year now. It's like on the table behind this the flag there. But yeah, so that one is cool, and that one doesn't require a dungeon master either. It's all narrative in the book that you're playing through. And nowadays there's a lot of uh, um, app assistance with board games. So like you'll have a board game where you're doing things on the board, and then when you get to like a spot, you have to do a thing on the app that will like read the narration for you. So have like a voice actor doing cool stuff, and so the app itself will be the game master. So you don't have to have a guy running doing all the management of all that stuff in the background. So yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I mean, it's a fun hobby, and I fell in love with it because I used to be a big video gamer playing Xbox Live, just sitting there vegging out, drinking beers by myself in the basement and, yelling at little kids and Call of Duty. And I really missed, and one of my buddies, my wife's cousin, actually, he invited me to play D&D one day, and he was just like, yeah, come over. And actually I declined. And then they started a new campaign like months later. And I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And so I fell in love instantly. I'm like, oh my God, I miss this. I miss like being in a room with real people and like looking at a face and being like, hey, you're a dick, and getting to like, talk smack to people across the table and just getting off of a screen. And so that's what made me fall in love with it, was just that face-to-face interaction. Because when I was a kid, I grew, they call it a Zennial, I guess. I'm 39. I was born in 1981. I'm like, I got one foot in Gen X, one foot in millennial. So I grew up with mostly without the internet until I was like, in high school. So I remember the days like playing Nintendo 64. It's like you'd play 4-player like GoldenEye or Mario Kart, and we'd all be crammed on a couch together, just like, jamming each other. So it brought back that nostalgia of like being in a room with a group of your friends all together, having a blast. So I got hooked ever since, and so went from being Dungeons and Dragons to 150 games and counting now. It's just hey,
Yeah,
but when the grid goes down, if the grid goes down, I will have the entertainment, man.
yeah, you're
I
the
got you
smartest.
covered.
You're the
Bring me
smartest
some
guy
candles.
alive at that point. Yeah,
Just bring some candles.
my last roommate in South Carolina was big into the tabletop gaming, and I never played D&D, but at our apartment we hosted a D&D session every week. So like I was around it, and like I just remember like sitting there puzzled, like I have no effing clue what's going on. I'm like, how long have you guys been playing this game? And they're like, oh, 6 years. I'm like, no, 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 not how long have you been playing, like D&D. How long has this campaign been going on? They're like, 6 years. And I'm like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
oh,
Oh yeah. It's insane.
okay.
It is super fun, man. It is so fun. Like, you have to have, if you want to be like a the dungeon master or whatever, you have to really be good at improv because I remember when I first did it, my first session, I had everything written out and it was like, oh man, it had all perfect, but they would have to kind of go a certain way for it to work out. Well, when I guess that's DM 101 where like never assume your party is going to go where you want them to go when you want them to go there. So of course they went completely off script over somewhere else, and so you're stuck having to make up the details on the fly, and you get really good at it. It's super fun though. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man, and I think it's actually getting more popular now. I mean, with like the Gen Z kids, I've heard that they're starting to get more into like Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and yeah, tabletop gaming. It's a huge industry now. You know how like the video game industry, what like hundreds of new games come out every year in video games. Well, it's the same thing with board games. I think like 400 or 500 new board games come out every single year. Whereas people are like, oh, you play board games? You play Pictionary? I'm like, that came out like back in the 70s or 60s or something. Like I'm like video game style where like I'm anticipating the new games coming out this year and stoked on it. Like yes, this. So and it's just like movies where you like have a designer that you're into that always designs killer board games. Oh man, the new Vital Lacerda game's coming out. Oh man, I gotta get my hands on that. So yeah, it's a pretty sweet hobby. It's grown a lot.
Yeah, I think that is sweet.
I
And
could talk about it for hours.
like I said, that game on your birthday drew my attention. I really love the American Wild West. That's like one of my favorite
Dude, you
genres in
would love
American
it, dude.
history.
It's such a good game. And there's another one called the Great Western Trail, which is pretty cool, where you're taking cattle and you're taking them from point A to point B through this thing, and then having these kind of misadventures along the way. But yeah, Western Legends is dope. It's a good one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that. Okay, I think we're nearing the end here. You got anything coming up? Anything you want to plug? Anybody you want to give a shout out to? This is your time. Do it.
Yeah, definitely shout out to obviously all the bears who've supported me thus far. I am greatly I'm so grateful for all of you, and I hope that I can repay as many of you as I can by also buying your stuff. I've been buying as much stuff as I can. I'm going to keep buying. I really do believe that in-group preference is the way out of Babylon, because if we can create our own economy, then we don't need the beast anymore. And so yeah, so bears, grounded extracts. Thank you for the stuff that I got from you. Woodshop Bear, shout out to Woodshop Bear. He's been awesome. Give me lots of shout outs. Yeah, and obviously Big Bear, none of us would be here in this community without him for sure. But yeah, yeah, I just can't thank the bears enough, man. And that's the biggest thing for me is my gratitude. I don't know. I need a bigger jug to fit it all in, because it's literally overflowing. Like, all I want to do is get my wife home so she can be at least spend a few years with our children while they're small, and be kind of have that stay-at-home lifestyle. It's like the one boomer grabble I want to undo in my lifetime if I can, which is the women need to go home and work for another woman's man, and not be home with their own children. Like, it's just like, even now she's seeing through the fact that she's a teacher, and she's seeing through that, where it's like, oh wait, I'm going to teach other people's kids. I want to be home teaching my kids,
Yeah.
So you guys are making that happen for me, guys, and I appreciate it. And new things are bringing in new bean origins, more merch, some cool stuff. Woodshop Bear had a proposition for me a little while back about some cool stuff that he could produce with me. We could do some so we got some collaborations coming with some of the bear stuff.
I'm a big fan of Woodshop Bear on Beartaria. I like his posts.
Dude, his stuff is killer. If I had
great.
infinite cash flow, I would buy all of his stuff, man. I'd buy all of his stuff. So
where's the best place for people to buy the coffee?
www.rebeljoecoffee.com, and I just launched on the New Year subscriptions as well, so you can subscribe. That way, you can just sign up and have your coffee delivered to you every month without having to lift a finger from there on, and you get a discount for that too.
And the link will be in the description below, so click the link if you want to go right to the page. All
Right
right.
on.
Unless you got anything else, I'm ready. I think we're both ready to call it a day. We both had a long one.
Yeah, man. I'm good, man. Just thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I'm
Hey,
really
thank you
enjoying
for
this
being here.
community, and this community is just so awesome. And I look forward to just getting more and more involved as we just grow this thing. So,
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me in Board Game Bear tonight in the Right Saloon.
see ya.
Oh, Rebel Joe.